I'm Mallory.
And I'm Greta.
This is Chalk It Out, where we spill the tea on what it's really like to be an educator.
And welcome to our very first episode.
This is exciting.
Today we're going to be talking a little bit about our first year teaching experiences. Episode 1, first year. Thought it made sense. So we're excited to start this podcast. I was a little hesitant when Mallory came to work one day. We used to share an office, and she was like, "We're going to start a podcast."
And this was also my husband's idea because he loves podcasts. And he's like, you know what? You and Greta.
And I was like, all right, Mallory, sure we will. And then, of course, Mallory, who is like super type A and organized and like efficient go-getter, like the perfect work companion. But she had like a to-do list, topic ideas. She had it all laid out. And she was like, okay, when do you want to meet? And I was like, oh, okay, we're for real doing this. Okay.
Here we are.
But the more I thought about it, I really think that it's a good idea. I think I'm excited because we really want to bring together families and educators and hopefully form a community where we can kind of come to a common understanding.
Exactly. Yeah. And just know that you have someone there too, because it can be a lot having families, and if you have students in the school system, it can be overwhelming.
Absolutely.
Same with teachers. And I think everybody works really hard and wants what's best for the students. It just doesn't always come across that way.
Absolutely. And like what we don't want is division. And I think now is more important than ever to come together as community and to form community. So that's what we're trying to do.
Perfect. Well, let's get started. All right. Do you want to start with just like a quick your experience in education?
Sure. Okay. So this is going to be my 10th year. So got 9 years under my belt in education. I started out as a third grade teacher, and I taught third grade for about 6 years. And then I was a math and reading interventionist as well as the gifted and talented coordinator.
So you were those two at the same year. I always get that confused.
Yes.
Right? So it wasn't like you were an interventionist, then a coordinator.
Yeah, I was, math and reading. So I had like maybe 4 reading intervention groups, 2 math intervention groups, and a GT group.
Mm-hmm.
How many is that? 7? That sounds about right.
Okay.
So that was a lot to navigate. And then my second year doing that, I got pulled back in the classroom to teach 5th grade because we had a teacher shortage. We've all experienced that. 6, 7, 8. Yeah. Okay. Sorry. I'm just making sure this makes sense. Maybe I was a third grade teacher for 5 years, regardless. And then I moved to a gifted and talented coordinator full-time position at a gifted and talented magnet school. And I have been doing that for 2 years, and I'm about to start on my 3rd year.
Yes, and that's where we met.
And that is where we met
2 years ago. Crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Tell us your experience, Mallory.
Yes.
She's a little bit more experienced than me.
I always get confused
More
when
ways
you're
than
15. How?
Did you see me try to wink? Then I can't. Fun fact, I don't know how to wink.
Oh, no. I just look really creepy. Try that for a picture later. Oh, God. Yeah, so I always get confused about 15 or 16, somewhere around there. You start to forget after so many years. But I started off in Colorado in a district in the Denver metro area. I would say middle class. It was still very diverse, though. When you think about this area, not everyone thinks it is, but it was. It was a preschool program, AM and PM class, which was really nice. And then the parents were super great. We'll get back to that in a little bit. And then from there, we moved to Virginia, my husband and I, which we met in college. I went to visit him in Virginia one summer and just never returned back to Colorado.
Oh.
Yep. So lived there, taught there for 5 years. I taught preschool program there where it was certified, so you had to have your teaching license. Then I taught 2nd grade for 1 year, and they closed down that school because it was a K-2 school, which different, but I loved it. Sad they closed that down, and so then they moved me to 3rd in a different area, different school. And then from there, we moved to Ohio, where I taught at private school, Catholic school. And then we actually moved to Missouri. We were there a few years where I stayed home to take care of my son, which you'll hear more about later. And then moved back to Colorado, and I was at an elementary school again in the Denver metro area for 5 years, and then joined you the past 2 as the instructional coach.
Yes, and Mallory is a fabulous instructional coach.
Thank you. I do enjoy that. So yeah, a teacher, interventionist, instructional coach. I was a mentor, lead
And
teacher.
now moving on
Oh, yeah,
to
forgot.
a whole new position. Big news.
Very soon too.
Yeah.
Yes. And so my next journey will be a dean at another K-8 school. So I'll be leaving Greta, which is very sad.
Very sad. How do you feel about moving into a new position?
I know. I love a challenge though. The thing with me, I love switching my role every 3 to 5 years because I love challenges and I like to set new goals. So I'm excited. This will be more of the discipline area, and I actually really enjoy working with adults. So it'll be interesting to go back to working with students with behavior.
Yeah.
But I am looking forward to working with families. I think that's an area I'd like to grow in, especially when you were talking about discipline.
Yeah.
And then I'm also getting my admin license here, so I'll be done in May.
Very exciting.
Yes.
Well, if your discipline skills have anything to do with how you raise your own kids, then every kid at that school is going to be perfect.
Yeah. I love hearing that. I love compliments. I know you do too.
Yes. So doesn't my hair look good today?
Yeah, looks fabulous.
Okay. So tell us a little bit about your first year teaching, because
Yes.
first year teaching is like, I don't even want to say hard because that doesn't even begin to describe it.
Yes, so true. So I was like fresh out of college. I was only 22.
Baby.
Yeah. Yes. So I'll talk about my first 2 years because
Okay.
they're very, I don't know, it just kind of goes together. So my first year, again, Denver metro area, preschool program, AM, PM. I had a lot of support though. I had a lot of support. The school district supported the preschool teachers plus the school I was at. They gave support. So it was a really collaboration. Counselors would come into our classroom and give services to those students who were on an IEP.
Wow.
Yeah, because that starts at age 3. And so they were in there. We just worked really well together. I had a fabulous para who really, I think I had 2 different ones though. So one ended up quitting and then the other one started halfway through the year.
Okay, and then just real quick, when she says para, she means paraprofessional, which is a educator that works with students in sort of a different capacity as a teacher, but can also perform similar duties, but does not necessarily have a teaching license. Is that
Yes, classified. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're usually classified. So true.
so? Yeah,
But they're so wonderful, especially when you have a good one, because they help you with planning. They make things for you. They help with the behavior, just everything. Yeah.
yeah, they can run small groups. They really can make a teacher's life and a difference in a student's life.
Yeah.
So
Especially
much
when you're talking about early childhood, you need 2 adults in a room. So
for sure. I would never want to do that.
yeah, and so I feel like it was such a lovely year. The only thing was, I don't know if you had that, but first year illness is the worst when you're a first year teacher because you get all those germs that
You're not immune to
used
anything yet. Yeah,
No, so I got the pink eye and I got the bronch.
Ugh.
Not the gronk. The bronch.
the bronch. What is that?
So I named it after Gronk. And do you know who Gronk is?
No.
Okay. So Gronk used to be a Patriots player with Tom Brady. They won
Okay,
like
so
5 Super
football,
Bowls.
football,
Football,
the
NFL.
football, not the soccer, football,
Football, yes, in America.
American football. Got it. Okay, you can tell I'm really into sports.
Yeah, that's why I had to bring this up. So, but anyhow, Gronk is fun, right? Everyone loves him. He's just
Sure,
a good time. So
sure.
when they won, I think it was the most recent Super Bowl. I think it was like their 5th win. It's annoying because I'm a Broncos fan. But anyhow, Tom Brady. Please tell me you know who Tom Brady is, though.
Yeah, I've heard of him. Married to Giselle, right?
Oh,
Giselle.
Got it. Nailed it.
But they're
So-
divorced, right?
Yes, they are.
Okay,
So-
that's all I know.
But I do appreciate Tom Brady because he's very fit, and I've heard it's because he eats healthy. Like he's just
Well,
that-
because he's an athlete.
yeah, all-star athlete. Anyhow, they win the Super Bowl trophy, and I don't even know what the name of that Super Bowl trophy is. Do you know?
I didn't know they had a name other than just it's a trophy for the Super Bowl.
I will put that on our website. Anyhow, so Tom Brady tosses it when they're celebrating in Miami on a boat, right? They're all on boats after
Sure,
the celebration.
as you do, yeah.
Yeah, he tosses this trophy that everybody wants, right? Gronk's boat, they catch it. But I'm like, what if that fell into the ocean and was like the Titanic and sank and it was never heard of again?
It was like the Titanic.
I'm
Yes,
like, hilarious.
Comparable tragedies right there.
So bronch reminds me of Gronk, and Gronk's really fun. So it's like, it makes bronchitis seem like
Fun
you know,
and a little
yeah.
careless, it seems, but okay.
Yeah, makes it seem better when you're sick. So next time if you have bronchitis, just think of Gronk.
Yeah, I don't know if I've ever gotten bronchitis.
What?
Yeah, I think I had strep throat maybe like my second year because I remember I was doing a read aloud of like a version of a Cinderella story, and I came in, or my principal came in to do an informal, and I was like miming the book to my kids because I had lost my voice.
Oh no.
But that was before we just stayed home when we were sick.
Oh man. Yeah.
Pre-COVID.
Yeah. I got strep like I don't know how many times when I've been teaching. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
I don't
So
know.
yeah, other than the illness, great first year. And then the very end of the year was spectacular because we had a little graduation. You know how cute it is when preschoolers
So
their
cute.
graduation caps and the parents are there and they're cheering you on and they gave me gifts and they're just like so grateful. They were like, "Thank you so much for everything you've done for my child," and I love that. Makes you feel good. Like you,
Well, yeah.
yeah, you spend every day with them. So
Yeah.
great first year, and then from there, moved to Virginia, and so that was a whole nother experience. So I moved there over the summer. You know, I was like, I guess I'm staying. You know, not leaving. So at first I was a nanny. I don't know if you knew that.
Okay.
For a family, a very wealthy family that owned a golf course. Lovely family. The mom had I think two girls that were already in college, and then they had like a 8-year-old and then this new baby.
Wow.
So she just really wanted someone to help her out.
Sure.
And so I had such a wonderful time with them. But then I went ahead and started applying because I'm like, I should probably use my license that I just paid for school. Probably should use that.
Sure.
So I started applying. And then I got a call from one of the directors of the early childhood program. And they were just asking me like 4 questions, and they were very simple. Just like, tell me about yourself. Where did you go to school? Why do you want to teach? I was like, okay. Strange, you know? So I was like, told her that. And so then she calls back, and it was late at night, like 6 p.m., right? And she calls and is like, okay, when do you want to start? Because we really need you in like tomorrow.
Wow.
Yeah.
The urgency of schools.
'Cause school
yes.
had already started. They just had extra students, and they needed somewhere to go. So they're like, we need 4 teachers, and we'd love to have you. So I was like, okay, sure, let's try this out. And so in Virginia, the school district, in order to teach this preschool program, you had to have your license. And so it was a full day program, no naps, which I always thought, preschool, you need a nap when you're there all day.
Yeah.
But no naps. And then amazing, because by the end of the year, every kid, but like 4 kids were reading, and I had 6 reading at a first grade level. And that was preschool. In
Wow.
a very diverse community where normally that does not occur. And that was
Yeah.
the purpose for having this, the ECE program, and they got Title I funding to fund it. And so did that. On my way to the first day of work, I go and I'm driving. They call it downtown. It's not a downtown that you would think of like with tall buildings, things like that. This was not like that. There's like projects and things. So coming from Denver, middle class, and then into that, I was like, this is very different. Very
yeah, I bet.
different. So driving, there was a cop car with a rifle out, had the gun pointing at a house, and I'm like,
Yikes.
what? This is kind of scary. And so I drove and parked my car and sat there, and I literally was like, I don't even know if I should go in. I don't feel safe, which, I didn't know. It was just a different, and you're 22 too. So you're
Right.
kind of living a bubble.
Yeah. I mean,
when you're
anytime I
from
see a
Colorado.
gun out in the open, I'm going to think I don't feel safe.
Yeah. Yeah.
Regardless of who's holding the gun.
Yeah.
Don't want it.
And so then I look over, and guess what is to the left of me? A gas station that offers pizza, and the picture of the pizza.
Okay.
looked
Fun
so
fact
good.
about Mallory is she will die for pizza.
Absolutely love it. I would eat it every day if I could.
Literally. She brought it for lunch nearly every day.
Pretty much, yeah. Love it. So I'm like, that's a sign. I'm going to go
Sure.
ahead and try this out. So I enter the school. They gave us, I think it was like 3 days to set up our classroom, meet the other 3 teachers and the director, all caring, lovely people. So we got a room set up. Everything was brand new, which, as a teacher.
Oh, that's the dream.
woo, brand new materials is like the best thing
The
ever.
smell. The cleanliness of
I
them.
was gonna
Wow.
say. So that was just so much fun. It's just setting up the room. And you know how you want to like set your room up and get it all right. And probably changed it 3 times before I liked it, but good times. And so within those class, I would say all but one student. Everyone was black except for the one student who was mixed. So she was white and black. And I have a real fun story about her later on another podcast. So very diverse, but this leads me to the story of the day.
All right, let's hear it.
Because our goal for every podcast is to have some kind of story, whether it be a cute, funny, or just like life-changing story, maybe.
Yeah.
So
And I can't remember any of mine, so they're mostly going to be Mallory's.
I have a lot. Oh, goodness. And so, okay, so we are teaching, right?
Mm-hmm.
In the community. And we're talking about recycling because within this district, they give you your curriculum. They had teachers and they all collaborated to make this curriculum. So we were on the recycling unit and we brought in all kinds of things that could be recycled and things that should not, all that fun stuff. So we're getting everything out, and the other teacher happened to have, I think it was a beer bottle, but obviously the sleeve and everything was off of it.
Mm-hmm.
And then she had some root beer bottles too and all that. So we get to she gets to the one, right, and the student, so cute and adorable, I can picture his little teeth. And he raises his hand, "Yo, miss." I don't know if you've ever called that. I get called that all the time. "Yo, miss." I'm like,
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
You mean Mrs., Rail or, yeah.
No, mostly the kids just call you Miss.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, anyhow, so she's like, "Yes," says his name. And he's like, "I did not know white people drink grown-up juice." But he said it a little different, with his little voice. "I didn't know white people drink grown-up juice." And she just sat there and thought about it for a minute and was like, "Well, am I a grown-up?" He's like, "Mm-hmm." And then she's like, "Well, yeah, I drink grown-up juice." So I feel like that brings us to a cheering point for grown-up juice
Oh, yeah.
on our first podcast.
Cheers.
And just want to thank you for joining me on this adventure.
Thanks for the great idea of having this to grown-up juice.
Grown-up
May we all
juice.
continue to enjoy it.
For sure. Yes. Oh,
Wow,
so I love that story because it's hilarious.
Yeah.
But reminds me, next time we go out, I really think we should ask the bartender for some grown-up juice just to see the reaction.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Let's do it. I'm all here for it.
Just to be like, "What are you talking
He's
about?
going to be like, what kind of grown-up
Do you
juice?
like wine?"
What flavor?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Okay, so tell us about your first year now.
Okay. So I was at a Title I school. Demographics were, I would say, like 70% Hispanic, maybe like 10% Black, 10% white, 7% white, maybe something like that. I know that doesn't add up to 100, but rough numbers.
Yeah.
So I actually had a really great first year as well. It was hard. I worked really hard, but I loved my class so much. I lucked out. I had like maybe 22 kids. I was teaching third grade.
Oh, such a low number. For those of you who don't know, sometimes you can get really high numbers and it's stressful.
Yeah. Like anything above 26, I feel like is just too many.
It's very busy.
And I had a really great classroom. If you know me, I need my space to look nice and cute. Mallory knows because I spent an hour putting up like these little vines in our office
And the lights.
and setting up the lights just
the plants.
because it has to be cute or else I don't want to be there.
Yeah, well, yeah.
And it does matter. Like the
does.
learning space matters. It does.
They want to feel welcomed. Yeah.
Exactly. So I had those, like I had lights on dimmers, like I could dim the lights. It was
Ooh.
cool and had great windows. Anyway, it was a great classroom. I also reorganized it and rearranged everything probably 6 times.
That's very common.
I would like stay late on a Friday and
Yeah.
just like,
Well, sometimes and then you get students who should not be sitting with each other. So you're like, "Yikes, I got to move them." And then you're
Yeah.
like, "Oh, no." And then you're like, "Shuffle."
or just like the functionality of like, I don't want my library here. I want my peace corner here. And I want like whatever, your regulation station, whatever you call it. So my students were great. I remember I had a really great supportive principal. I did get coaching that year. I got behavior management coaching, which was huge.
Ooh, represent coaches.
Yeah. So it was kind of interesting because it was in the moment coaching. So like I wore a headpiece, like an earpiece, and my coach would sort of stand in the classroom off to the side, and she would like talk into her earpiece, like talk into my ear and tell me what to do.
Ooh, yeah.
And so it was all about positive narration. I don't know is it called no nonsense? I'm not sure if that's the right word, but anyway, it was like positive narration, like making sure that you narrate 3 times before, like to get the behavior that you
Yeah.
want
Uh-huh.
around the behavior, and then like really waiting to make sure that everybody's paying attention, all eyes were on
Okay.
you before starting to
Yeah.
teach.
Okay.
And that was my problem when I first started teaching is I just wanted to like get going. So I was like,
Oh,
I'm
yeah,
just going to
yeah.
ignore this one person or these two
Yep.
people. But no.
Yeah, and that's really important at the beginning there, especially like you got to lay that foundation.
And then giving really specific directions. Like when I say go, you will walk with your voices off to
Yes.
take your
Paper.
book out
Mhm.
and work silently. Like very specific directions, and then like give them the cue to go. And that helped a lot. Like I think she came in maybe only twice with the headset thing, and then was able to just give me feedback regularly. But it was like very awkward in the
I was gonna
moment.
say that would drive me crazy a little bit to have someone in my ear.
It was awkward, yeah, but it was helpful.
Helpful, yeah.
So it was just like you just endured it for like what 30 minutes, and then you were done, and
Yeah.
you just were able to get feedback, and it made a world of difference. And then I had like really great mentor teachers that gave me just like great things to use in the classroom. Like, so instead of saying like when I say go, I would say when I say the magic word, and then the magic word always like applied to what we were learning about. So like
I
I would
love
say like
that.
I would say quadrilateral, and they would say a four-sided shape. And so
Oh,
just
yeah.
like another way to integrate
Your
content,
standards, love that.
into behavior management, and those routines. So I think having really clear routines was really helpful for me.
Didn't you have like a stressful first day though, right? Because you had new students.
Yes. So that is something that happens all the time in schools is you will get new students. So I got
That first week or two.
Yeah.
Just come in and out.
Well, throughout the entire school year,
that's
really.
true,
But
yeah.
my first year teaching, first day of school, I had two students not on my roster walk into my classroom, and they were like, "We're supposed to be here," but also they were newcomer students, which means that they were new to the country, so they also did not speak English.
Yes. And side note too, for those of you who don't know, teachers love like putting their names on everything. So like notebooks and the desk. So everything's all set up. So it's very stressful when you have two new ones come in.
Yeah.
Plus, if you number your system, then they have to go to the bottom. They don't match the alphabet order. That drives me crazy.
Yeah. Well, and it's just like it's stressful because you don't feel prepared, but then you worry like, oh my gosh, the student doesn't feel welcome because like I didn't have a seat for them. Like I didn't have a chair for them. I had to have them sit at my back table until I figured they went to specials or lunch or whatever, and I like had time to figure it out. But it was hard.
Yeah.
It was really stressful because
And if they don't speak English or little to no English, I'm sure they're like,
yeah,
aw,
those poor little guys. But I think at the end they felt welcome, and we were able to figure it out. It's just like you have to be prepared to scramble and to like think on your
yeah.
feet and to just make a quick decision.
and kind of be flexible because I know some people are like, I want, everything a certain way, but it doesn't go as planned sometimes.
Yeah.
Most of the time.
Yeah.
That first day is just chaos. That's why, if you're a husband or wife that takes care of spouses at home, take care of them on that first day. It's
It
a
is
long day and it's exhausting.
Yeah. And then I think the other thing I did that made my year so successful was I did actually two things. One is we got the opportunity to do home visits before the school year started, and I went to almost every single one of my students' homes. Like I scheduled them with an interpreter beforehand, and then we went and visited them with an interpreter if needed, or with another teacher if an interpreter wasn't needed. So you weren't going alone. And we just talked about, got to know each other, talked about their education goals, got to know where they came from. And it was really impactful. And it really laid a great foundation for our relationship.
So important.
Yeah. And then I did positive phone calls home that first day. I probably stayed after for 2 hours
Oh, that's
talking
sweet.
to students and using Google Translate to try to speak in Spanish and to just say I'm so happy to be your child's teacher. This is one funny thing that happened.
Yeah.
And I think that really laid the groundwork for a great school year for me.
I've had a school where they put time into our planning where you had to do positive phone calls. It was just once a quarter, but it's so worth it because parents
Yeah.
love to hear the good things they're doing. They don't want to just always hear the bad. So
Yeah. And it's honestly, it's fun to do that
Yeah.
as a teacher too. Cause they
Yeah.
at first they answer the phone and they're like,
All
oh
excited.
God,
Yeah.
what?
But then
Because they're
they're
so used to getting negative phone calls. or you just like wouldn't expect that you're
Yeah.
gonna like you expect
Yeah.
like no news is good news,
Oh
right?
yeah, they're always like, "What happened?" Yeah.
Yeah. And you're like, well, actually, I just wanted to share something great. And then
And
they're just like,
in their
you can
voice. Oh
hear, you
yeah,
can hear it.
I
Yeah.
feel it. And yeah, I during COVID, I missed my students so much because that was just such chaos. So I went. I didn't obviously get to go into homes, but I delivered pizzas to my students because they just didn't have a lot, obviously.
Yeah.
And they were like, they just needed to see somebody. And so it's very, I don't know, eye opening when you visit homes too to see what it's really like for some students.
For sure.
I know a lot of my families were immigrants, and they would have, like 10 people living in a little one bedroom, one bath. And I just can't even imagine, when
Yeah.
they're happy as can be because they're just loving everything. But very grateful for the pizza. So,
That's nice. Yeah. It was interesting. Like when we were COVID online school, the insight we got into
yes.
people's
I know
houses.
what it's like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. But yeah, I think overall I had a really good first year. Sounds like you did
Yes,
too.
yeah.
So what advice would you give first year teachers, Mallory?
Yes, I think my first one would be have some sort of system in place for behavior and positive reinforcement. I think that is so important. And it's for every grade level. I know a lot of times everyone's like, that's just for little kids. I don't think so. I think students need to be rewarded or find, something that they're really great at and just be like, you did such a great job today. So
Yeah.
do positive reinforcement. I use a color code system. I know not everyone agrees with that, but the green, yellow, red. But I always made sure students can come right back down once they change their behavior. It's not like once you were at yellow, you were stuck there all day or anything
Right.
like that. But they had to like reflect and say, oh, this is what I did. This is what I'm doing to change it. So I think self-reflection is really important. So number one, behavior management, something in place, positive phone calls, like we were saying, anything like that. And then my second one would be for back to school nights at the beginning of the year, or sometimes the students go in before school even starts, and having students say their first and last name and record it.
That's
Because
smart.
when we live in Colorado, some of those names can be tricky, and you want to make sure that you pronounce them correctly. I've had a couple of students where they wouldn't correct me. And so I said their name wrong for like a whole quarter. And that does not feel good,
No.
And also on the other side of that, families love that you know how to say their name. So recording it, very helpful. And then the third one would be just to collaborate with your community. So that would include families building that partnership. It would be reaching out to a coach or the interventionist. Like, don't feel like you're all alone. Even working with admin, because I do think they can provide some feedback too. So
Yeah.
just using everyone around you and your teachers, if you're lucky to have like a grade level, person, reaching out to them because they're like your best buddies.
Yes,
that
lean
whole-
on that
yeah,
support.
with planning, questions. So those are my three. What about you?
So one of my three was also your last one, which is lean on the people around you for support and collaborate, because you're not going to be able to plan everything. You're going to need to borrow your teammates' plans. You're going to need to ask for help. You're going to need to get feedback. So lean on those people around you for sure, and just like know that you're going to get feedback, and you like just learn and adapt. And then I would say my number one though is community build, and spend the time community building, because your kids aren't going to learn anything if they don't feel like they belong in the classroom.
So true.
So however you do that, like whether it's those positive phone calls home, I used to also write notes to my students. Like I would pick like 5 a day, and I would just like write a little note, and they would write me back, and I would pick another 5 the next day. And like, we just sort of had an ongoing correspondence, just like made them feel special.
Yeah.
Lunch bunch, whatever, spend that time in the morning, greet them by name, like really get to know them.
And be authentic because they can tell.
Yeah. And with that, you have to be willing to share a little bit about yourself too, because if you can't be a little bit vulnerable, like I'm not saying go tell them about the wild night you had on Friday night, but like you can say, hey, my husband's in the hospital right now and I'm a little sad today.
Yeah.
Or, hey, my dog was throwing up all night. I'm tired. Like those things make you a human, and it really helps form the connection.
Yeah, and it teaches them too.
Yeah,
on
how to deal with
handle,
things for sure. And then my second one, or I guess this is my last one, my third one, is to hang on, I had it. My second piece of it, no, my third piece.
third
We're going to
piece.
cut this part out
Okay.
because I'm talking in circles. Oh, okay. And my last piece of advice is to pick one thing to get really good at.
Yes.
So we always want to be really good at everything right away because it feels urgent. It feels like I have to. Like I have to be good at all the things because my students deserve all the things.
Yes.
But it's impossible. And so just pick one thing. Like whether that's I'm going to get really good at teaching small group reading, or I'm going to get really good at math whole group, or I'm going to get really good at community building or whatever. Like pick one thing to start and just focus on that. Set a goal for yourself and then try something else on when you've mastered that.
You know how much I love goal setting. I love that you said that.
I also love goal setting. I know a lot of people hate goal setting, or I'm realizing a lot of adults actually don't like goal setting.
I know, it's because they don't reach them. That's why you make smaller goals and make sure they're achievable, you know?
yeah.
But it's so rewarding when you do reach it, so.
Totally. Totally. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us on episode 1. Please follow us on social media, Chalk It Out on Instagram. We are working on building a website and we will post that on Instagram as soon as we get it up and running.
Yes.
We have Facebook.
Yes, we do. Chalk it out.
Did I say chalk it up? Chalk it out. Still learning the name. Hold on, I'm going to reread that, record that just in case. So thank you so much for joining us for episode 1. Please follow us on social media. We are Chalk It Out on Instagram and Facebook.
Yes, I believe so.
And we are working on building our website. So we're going to post some blog posts there. So for additional resources, we'll post the website link as soon as we get it up and running on our Instagram and Facebook.
Yes. All right. Well, we hope you join us next time.
Yeah. And please feel free to send in stories or questions or anything you want covered at the top on the podcast or things that you want to explore a little bit more. We would love to hear from you. All right. Thank you.